For decades, retail giant Toys R Us dominated the American toy sales market. But as of last month, Toys R Us is no more, with all 735 stores closed and 33,000 employees out of work. As sad as the situation is for all the fans of the store, the reality the employees face is even worse. The Toys R Us bankruptcy is this week's Swamp Watch. Because of the crippling debt that forced Toys R Us out of business, employees were given nothing but a thank you, not seeing a dime of the $75 million they say they're entitled to as severance pay. That's because current bankruptcy rules define employee severance payments as unsecured debt, only paid after secured debts like the bank loans that pay for lawyers and financial advisors. By the time the fat cats are paid for, there's nothing left for the employees. Those rules go back 40 years to the 1978 Bankruptcy Reform Act. Congress could change them if they wanted to. But of course they don't, because as Swamp Watch has shown time and again, Congress has a long track record of siding with big business against the American worker. To throw salt in the wound of this Toys R Us case, 17 of their executives, including CEO David Brandon, were handed out between $16 and $32 million in bonuses last year.
Each?
Yes, bonuses.
Or split up. But
the
still,
executives
a lot.
justified this by saying the bonuses were necessary to make sure they performed at a high level during the bankruptcy.
Fucking for the love of Thor.
And that's not
my
all.
French.
Toys R Us attorneys and advisors are expected to be paid $350 million in fees. For example, bankruptcy lawyers Kirkland and Ellis admitted in court filings they were charging as much as $1,745 an hour. That's 25% more than the average highest rate in 10 of the largest bankruptcies in 2017.
Wow.
Not to mention bankruptcy consultants Hilco Global and Tiger Capital Group, who actually got bonuses for closing stores quickly. And you could be sure New York-based Malfitano partners, hired for help in soliciting and evaluating proposals to liquidate inventory, will be cashing their paychecks as well. But store employees? They're left looking for new retail jobs with no severance pay as a cushion, hoping their next company won't also go bankrupt and screw them all over again. To all the elitists out there, this is why we have the populist revolution. This is why Donald Trump was elected. This is why when Bernie Sanders talks about a rigged economy, he's right. People across the country, including DC lawmakers, are taking aim at private equity firms Bain Capital, started by Mitt Romney, KKR and Vornado Realty Trust, for their role in Toys R Us's downfall. And many are saying the Wall Street billionaires who killed the company with crippling debt are now laughing their way to the bank, sucking out $470 million in management and interest fees. Well, former Toys R Us workers are fighting back, and former store manager Madeline Garcia joins me now.
They just got to sue him.
Madeline, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate
court judge,
just tell us about
concerned about illegal immigration side on
Thank you, Steve, for having me. I've worked for Toys R Us for 30 years. I started as a cashier and worked my way all the way up to store manager in the Boynton Beach, Florida store. And to find out that Toys R Us was going out of business, closing, was devastating for all of us. It's something that we did not expect. When they announced that they were going to close the stores at the beginning of the year, there was a communication that went out that said they're going to close the first 182 stores, and team members will be placed either at another nearby store or they will be given a severance package to help them through the transition.
They actually broke a promise that they would protect you through this
Correct.
time.
Correct. Toys R Us have always, for 70 years, have paid out severance pay when they closed down a store or they had eliminated a position. This time they came back and just said no because of the bankruptcy laws. However, the executive bonuses
were paid out.
However, all the top executives
received... I just wanted to...
Go ahead, Steve.
Well, look, I can imagine how you feel. I don't want to, make the pain worse for you, actually. I just want to ask you, hopefully in a more positive and optimistic way, what can we do about it? What are you trying to achieve? What can we help with to try and do something about this?
We want to see the changes made in the bankruptcy laws so that this doesn't happen again in future for retail workers. We also want Bain Capital, KKR, and Vornado Realty Trust to come to the table and pay Toys R Us workers what we deserve. We worked hard for...
Yeah, out of their own pocket. You ain't got their bonuses. All right, so
we
split
deserve
up.
to get that. It's the only fair and right
20
thing to
grand
do.
for each employee.
And just a final question, is this
much could
an
that be?
organised effort? Part of the group?
Never mind.
Yes. We're part of Rise Up Retail, which is a movement of workers fighting for voice and respect in the retail industry.
See, this is the reason. Do you see Democrats, massing out there protesting this?
For coming and sharing your experience. Really, really appreciate it, and all the best to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
So, I mean, I don't know, that what we just learned there, that it's not only they didn't pay up, they promised they would, and then they didn't. I mean, this is, like you were saying, this is
not, sadly, Steve, we've seen this movie play out before. Right. Over and over again, we've seen corporations and a Congress that is backed by corporations because their lobbyists run through Congress, both Democrats and Republicans, and they do what they want. Both sides. Let's talk about the Trump tax, for example. Many of these companies benefit from this tax cut. Kimberly-Clark is another one of these bad corporations, and after getting money from the tax cut, getting money from American taxpayers, they let off 5,000 people, right? And when you talk about the bankruptcy reform, which was renewed in 2005, every time they open up the bankruptcy reform, every time they open up bankruptcy laws, it always benefits bank regulators, and it never benefits the American people. So we've got to be mindful about what's happening in this country, and I think it's very important for everybody watching tonight to make sure they're calling the member of Congress and being very mindful of the bills that's passed and who is behind them and what is being done and who's it for and who's it against. Usually, it's against working families.
Right. So look, the interesting thing politically, Lisa, I think, is that President Trump, unusually for a Republican, he talked all the time about being the party of the American worker, still does. That means getting involved on the workers' side on issues like this, no?
Well, you've also seen under President Trump hundreds of businesses passing savings from the tax reform law down to employees, and President Trump has highlighted those stories at events across the country. So you've also seen that. I actually think her biggest gripe and grievance should be against Toys R Us and their failure to look at basically the changes in, with internet retailers like Amazon and Walmart and their failure to change their business model to keep up, because it's basically Amazon and Walmart's ability to bring toys at a much cheaper cost that has helped driven Toys R Us out of business. So their antiquated business model wasn't able to keep up in the changing economy. So honestly, I think the biggest grievance is with mismanagement on the business side.
You promise your workers a severance package, and you've given severances in the past. You're like, oh, we have a little loophole, so we're going to get out of it.
I just want to say something.
But they're paying off their shareholders.
I want to say something.
But they're paying off their shareholders.
I want to say something, which is that point that Lisa made about the transition to a new economy is so important, and that's why I couldn't believe the fact that we actually had a really important announcement on that this week from the Trump administration, led by Ivanka Trump, a new initiative to train workers for the jobs of the future. Do you know how much coverage that got? We did an analysis. ABC News, 0. NBC News, 0. CBS News, 0. They're not interested, and yet that's the kind of thing that actually could help with a very good point you made about this big economic transition. I've gone on to